Tucker Carlson wasn't the only one that freaked out over the prospect of a black woman finally being on the Supreme Court. Let's see, let's jump ahead just a little bit. You got Sean Hannity calling it gender discrimination to prioritize a woman. Just assuming that whoever we pick is going to be male, presumably is not gender discrimination. Okay. Newsmax host Grant Stinchfield, who they swear is a real person, I don't think that he is. He speculates that Breyer retiring is part of a plot to install Hillary Clinton as president. Well, yesterday, after all, Fox was saying they're gonna put Kamala Harris on the Supreme Court. That's deranged, so Newsmax has to be more deranged. So after you put Harris on SCOTUS, this is what Grant Stinchfield thinks is gonna happen. What if he picked Hillary Clinton to be his vice president? Oh boy. Then what if he picks Hillary Clinton and then decides to resign a short time later? Hillary gets the White House and then ultimately the chance to run as an incumbent. If you don't think that they're thinking about this, think again. This is not far-fetched at all. This is one potential strategy that I promise you, who's thinking about? Barack Obama, Susan Rice, George Soros. They're the ones considering this. After all, they're the ones who's pulling the strings, right? Throwing out, Viviana, what you need to understand is that throwing out George Soros as the guy who is coming up with this insane thing isn't explicitly anti-Semitic enough. He has to then explicitly invoke the puppet master trope by saying that George Soros, again, is the Jewish man who's pulling the strings on a politician. So, but again,
it's the dog whistle that has turned into a screaming siren. It is just horrendous. Whenever you have somebody saying this is not far-fetched at all, I mean, that's what you gotta worry. When they start telling you, don't think, don't use rationalization or critical thinking. No.
Yep.
It's
100%.
This is mainstream now, John. This is real.
Oh yeah, no. Tucker Carlson just came out with this like docuseries about Hungary and George Soros. It's just, you had 4chan and InfoWars and Stormfront like 10 years ago. And it was a little bit too early to go mainstream, but just, slap a blank stare on it and it could be on Fox News literally every night.
Aziz Ansari just did a special on Netflix and he talks about content and how good of content Trump was. And it's really, you gotta check it out. It's actually a great special, it's pretty short.
I'll take a look.
And it's pretty poignant. This is what people are eating up. We want something to talk about.
Exactly. Well, look, there's the conspiracy theories, and then there's also, so Ben Shapiro, you think he's gonna pass up an opportunity to imply that women of color are qualified for their positions? So he says, there's a reason Democrats never miss with their SCOTUS picks. They overtly choose wild leftists. Yep, that's why they wanted Merrick Garland, because he was a wild Antifa commie.
Never miss. I feel like we've missed the last few times.
Yeah, that's also true. That's the only real qualification. They wouldn't care whether Biden nominated an HLS grad who clerked for Breyer or Cardi B, so long as that person voted reliably left. Okay, and also said that he's violating federal civil rights law by wanting a black woman to be on the Supreme Court. Okay, so I gotta run through a couple things because there he's talking about qualifications. The Dems don't care about it, presumably the right does. As Max Kennerly points out, Amy Coney Barrett's Senate questionnaire asked her to name her 10 most significant litigation matters. She could only name 3 cases. She was not lead counsel on any of them. Where were your qualifications concerns there? Which is totally true. Let's run through some of the recent Dem appointments to the SCOTUS. Every recent Democratic nominee, for better or worse, is a highly educated Ivy Leaguer. And I agree, for better or for worse. I don't think that it's the most important thing, but Ben Shapiro, you better believe, thinks that that's the most important thing. Kagan was dean of Harvard Law. Sotomayor was top of her undergrad class at Princeton. Of course, Ben Shapiro has very recently gone on and on about how Sotomayor has to be stupid. Presumably it's not because she was head of her class at Princeton. Maybe there's some other reason he thinks that she has to be stupid. I'll let you fill in the blanks there. So who is the front runner right now to be Biden's pick? It is Ketanji Brown Jackson, who presumably is just a wild lefty. She's not qualified in any way. She's being picked either because she's a wild lefty or because she's a black woman. Definitely not because she went to Harvard undergrad, graduated magna cum laude, then went to Harvard Law and was the editor of the Harvard Law Review. She was a judicial clerk, a public defender, and a judge for literally decades. but it can't be any of that. Meanwhile, Amy Coney Barrett had never been a judge until 2017. She never tried a case to verdict or argued an appeal in court. And along the way, in addition to choosing Amy Coney Barrett and a guy who we only know because he really likes beer and he probably did some horrendous stuff to women over the course of his life, a number of nominees at various levels that Trump tried to get on to the judiciary, the American Bar Association ruled as fundamentally not qualified, 9 of them. 7 of those were then confirmed by the Senate, the Republican Senate that cares so much about qualifications. Well, they might not have been qualified, but a lot of them were white and most of them were males, so maybe that had something to do with it.
Well, the qualifications might be different than what you or I might prioritize. The most salient for Amy Barrett was that she was pro-life. So it really didn't matter what else she did in her career. The fact that they knew how she was gonna vote on this important fact, was what got her in.
100%, yeah, they do. And amidst all the other hypocrisy and all the other lies.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.